When you speak at meetings, does silence fall? Do eyes drift to phones when you present your ideas? Perhaps worst of all, your boss looks at you as if you weren't there, then moves on to the next person, as if you weren't even there, as if what you say carries no weight. You know you're talented. You know you work hard. You stay at your desk late every night. You even think about your projects on weekends, but no one sees it. No one listens. And most dangerously, no one takes you seriously. This feeling eats away at you from the inside. Because you don't just want to be seen, you want to be valued, you want to be respected. But with each passing day, it feels like you're becoming more invisible. And after a while, you start arguing with yourself. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I'm not a leader type. Today, I'll share with you a truth Miyamoto Musashi discovered 400 years ago. That respect is earned not through noise, but through silence. It is built not by appearing strong, but by being strong. And perhaps most importantly, that respect is not something others should give you, but something you make them feel. Because Musashi never won a duel by shouting. He won because his opponent had to take him seriously. Chapter 1. Why are you invisible? Here's a real scene. Monday morning, 9 a.m., meeting room. The team is gathered, discussing a new project. The whiteboard is full, the agenda is packed. Everyone looks tired, but tries to appear attentive. You are prepared. You spent 3 hours researching last weekend, took notes, even prepared a presentation. You checked the PDF 3 times. When it's your turn, you're ready. But when it's your turn to speak, something happens. Your voice rises. Your hands tremble slightly. Your sentences get jumbled. What you want to say becomes muddled as it leaves your mouth. And you realize no one is looking at you. The boss is staring at the table. One colleague is scrolling through their screen. Another is stirring their coffee as if they hear background noise rather than your voice. You're talking, but no one is listening. And when the meeting ends, your idea is forgotten as if it were never mentioned. Even worse, an hour later, someone else says the same thing, and the boss says, "Great suggestion." Something inside you breaks, but on the outside, you smile. "No problem," you say. But there is a problem, a big problem. It's not your fault, but it is your problem. Because there's a reality in the business world. Being talented isn't enough. Being hardworking isn't enough. Even being right isn't enough. If they don't take you seriously, you don't exist. Your ideas, your efforts, those projects you stayed up all night working on, they're all invisible. And this is where most people take one of 2 wrong paths. The first path, trying to speak louder, being aggressive, interrupting every topic in meetings, trying to force yourself to be accepted. This usually makes you come across as difficult or tense. People start avoiding you. The second path, quietly retreating, holding back, thinking, they don't see me anyway, so I won't speak. This makes you completely invisible, and after a while, you too are forgotten. But there is a third way, Musashi's way, the way that gaining respect is not about showing strength, but about showing presence, neither shouting nor silently disappearing, just being there, but being there in such a way that no one can ignore you. And today, I will show you that way, step by step. Chapter 2. Musashi's Duel, 1604, a small town in northern Japan, a cold winter morning. The sky is gray, the wind light but sharp. Miyamoto Musashi is just 20 years old. He is not famous. No one knows him, just a young samurai searching for his path. But he receives a duel challenge. His opponent is a well-known, respected, experienced samurai in the region who has won dozens of duels. Even his name is intimidating. The crowd has gathered in the town square. There is anticipation, there is tension. Everyone thinks the opponent will win because Musashi is unknown. He just looks like a child. Musashi enters the square, slowly. He hasn't drawn his sword. He's not rushing. He's not talking. He's not looking around. He's just standing there, looking at his opponent. His eyes are fixed. The silence stretches on. The crowd waits. The opponent waits. Musashi just stands there. He breathes. His posture is calm. His hands are relaxed but ready. And at that moment, even before the sword is drawn, the opponent understands something. This man is different. This man is not rushing. If this man is not panicking, then he is ready. Then he is strong. Then he is dangerous. The opponent tries to make the first move, but there is hesitation within him. Musashi's silence has entered his mind, and at that moment, Musashi moves. One move. Fast, clear, decisive. The opponent falls to the ground. The duel is over. The crowd is stunned. But Musashi is not surprised, because he had already won the duel before drawing his sword. His opponent was affected by Musashi's presence and had already lost in his mind. Musashi's power was not in his sword, it was in his mind. And that mind wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. It was just there. This scene forms the basis of Musashi's entire philosophy. Power is expressed not with noise, but with silence. Respect is earned not by demanding it, but by making it felt. The opponent was forced to show respect to Musashi, because Musashi did not force him. He simply showed such a presence that it became impossible not to show respect. Chapter 3. Heijoshin and Metsuke. There are two concepts Musashi applied in that duel. Both will give you the key to earning respect at work today. The first, Heijoshin, a calm mind. This is a state of mind free from panic, reaction, and emotional noise. Musashi does not react to his opponent's provocations. He is unaffected by the crowd's expectation. Even if his opponent tries to intimidate him, Musashi remains calm inside, because he has learned to control fear. He hasn't eliminated fear, he has controlled it. And that is a much more powerful thing. Heijoshin means this for you. When your boss yells at you, feel the panic inside, but don't give in to it. When someone criticizes you in a meeting, don't go on the defensive. When everyone is rushing around in a crisis, you stop, breathe, think, then act. Because the strongest person in the world is not the one who moves the fastest. It's the one who moves the calmest. Second, Metsuke, reading intentions. Musashi doesn't watch his opponent's movements. He watches their intention. He reads their eyes, their stance, their energy. Before the opponent they intend to attack. And Musashi sees that intention. That way, he understands the move before it comes. It's the same in the business world. If you only listen to the words, you miss half of it. But if you read the intention, you're one step ahead. When the boss says, "There's no problem with this project," but his tone is tense, his eyes are darting around, you know there is a problem. And you can see that problem before anyone else does. The ancient principles sound beautiful on paper, don't they? Heijoshin, Metsuke, philosophical concepts from a samurai who lived centuries ago. But here's where most people stumble. They understand the theory, they nod along, they even feel inspired for a moment. And then Monday morning arrives, the alarm goes off, the emails flood in, the Slack messages pile up, and suddenly, Musashi's wisdom feels impossibly distant, like trying to meditate while your house is on fire. This is the gap that destroys most attempts at change, the distance between understanding and application, between knowing what to do and actually doing it. You've read about staying calm under pressure before. You've heard about the power of silence. You've probably even told yourself, next time I'll be different. Next time I won't panic. But next time comes, and you're exactly the same. Your voice still shakes, your hands still tremble, your mind still races. Why does this happen? Because your workplace isn't a quiet arena in feudal Japan. It's a battlefield of competing voices, conflicting agendas, and constant interruption. Your opponent isn't a single samurai you can face with honor. It's a room full of people checking their phones, a boss with impossible deadlines, colleagues who interrupt before you finish your sentences, and a nagging voice in your head saying, "You're not good enough." Musashi's duel lasted minutes. Your battle lasts all day, every day. He drew his sword once. You have to make dozens of decisions every hour. When to speak, when to stay silent, how to respond to criticism, whether to push back or let it go. And here's what nobody tells you about these ancient principles. They don't work automatically. Reading about Heijoshin doesn't give you a calm mind any more than reading about weightlifting gives you. You have to practice. You have to fail. You have to feel the panic rising in your chest during a presentation and choose consciously, deliberately, to breathe through it instead of giving into it. The transition from philosophy to reality requires a bridge, and that bridge is built from small, concrete actions that you can take tomorrow. Not someday when you feel ready, not after you've meditated for 6 months or read 10 more books. Tomorrow. In your actual office, with your actual colleagues, facing your actual problem. Because here's the truth that Musashi understood but never needed to say: Principles without practice are just pretty words. Theory without action is just entertainment. So let me show you exactly how these concepts translate into your Monday morning meeting. Not in theory, not in an ideal world where everyone respects each other and listens carefully, but in the messy, chaotic, frustrating reality of your actual workplace, where people interrupt, where your boss is distracted, where you have exactly 30 seconds to make an impression before everyone moves on to the next agenda item. This is where Musashi's 400-year-old wisdom either becomes real or stays forever trapped in the past. Chapter 4, The Silent Strategy in the Office. Now let's bring this to today, Monday morning, same conference room, but this time you're different. When the meeting starts, everyone is talking. Ideas are flying. Some are half-baked, some are rushed. Everyone is trying to say something because they need to look active. But you wait. You take notes. You listen. You read the energy in the room. You see what your boss is looking for, what the team is stuck on. You notice who is tense, who is insecure, who is just talking for the sake of talking. And then a moment comes. That moment when silence falls, a pause. The boss is faced with a question. The team can't find a solution. Everyone looks at each other, and you speak up in that moment. Your tone is low, no rush. Sentences are short, clear. I saw some data on this 3 days ago. It might be relevant, you say, and then you pause. You don't continue. You don't defend yourself. You don't add anything. You just said it. The energy in the room changes. The boss looks at you. This time, his eyes aren't on his phone. They're on you. Go on, he says, and you do, because you're ready, short, clear, valuable. You share the data. You suggest a solution. And most importantly, you stand behind what you say. This is the modern version of Musashi's stance in the arena. You don't talk constantly. You speak at the right moment. You don't speak loudly. You speak in a low tone, but clearly. And most importantly, you stand behind what you say. You don't go on the defensive, because Heijoshin gives you that control. You're not the one panicking. You're the one who's prepared. And the boss, the team, everyone, they feel it. They have to take you seriously, because you're not forcing them. You have such a presence that it becomes impossible to ignore you. Chapter 5, 3 Strategies. Now I'll give you 3 concrete strategies. You can apply them tomorrow in meetings, when writing emails, when talking to your boss. First strategy, don't speak first, speak second. In meetings, everyone speaks in a hurry. The first speaker is usually not the most memorable, because the first speaker speaks without reading the room's energy. But the second or third speaker is the one who reads the room's energy and hits the right note. Be that person. Wait. Listen. Watch what the first 2 people say. Read your boss's reaction. Then speak. And when you speak, reference the previous comments. Say, as John said, but I can add something. This makes you appear both attentive and strategic. Second strategy, lower your tone. Slow your tempo. A loud voice doesn't inspire confidence. It inspires panic. It inspires excitement, but not authority. A low tone inspires control. A slow tempo inspires thought. Next time you speak, consciously lower your tone a notch. Speak as if you were confiding in someone. People pay more attention to someone who speaks slowly and in a low tone, because they think if this person isn't rushing, they must have something important to say. Pause briefly between sentences. Give the audience or listener time to think. Like Musashi's silence in the arena, that silence was the silence of power. Make sure your pauses are like that too. Third strategy, stand behind what you say. If you present an idea and someone objects, don't immediately back down, but don't be aggressive either. Just stay calm. Say, I understand. I think this way because, and continue. Don't go on the defensive. Explain. Don't try to justify yourself. Just stand behind your idea. If you're wrong, say, you're right, I missed that. But when you're confident in your idea, don't defend it, but don't abandon it either. This is the modern version of Metsuke. You read the other person's intentions, but you maintain your own stance. And people respect those who maintain their stance, but are respectful. Chapter 6, Jackson's Story. Let me tell you about Jackson, who works at a tech company in San Francisco. He's 29. He's been in the same position for 3 years. He's a software engineer, talented. His code is clean, his solution's smart, but he's not getting promoted. The reason is simple. No one notices him. He stays quiet in meetings. He only writes his ideas on Slack. and his boss sees him as os. Jackson is unhappy with this situation, but he doesn't know what to do. He works harder, but nothing changes. One day, Jackson watches this video and he tries something. At the next meeting, he doesn't speak first. He waits. The team gets stuck on a problem. There's an error in the API integration. Everyone tries to suggest solutions, but no one is listening. Everyone is talking at once. The boss is frustrated, saying, "We need to solve this problem or we'll miss the deadline." Jackson waits 2 minutes. He listens quietly. And a moment comes. Everyone is a little tired. There's a pause. Jackson raises his hand. His tone is low. No rush. "I encountered a similar problem last week. I tried this approach and it worked. I can show you if you'd like." The boss stops. He looks at him. "Show me," he says. Jackson shares his screen. He shows the code. He solves the problem. In 5 minutes, the meeting ends. The boss says, "Good job, Jackson." But the real change happens after that moment. At the next meeting, the boss asks Jackson, "What do you think?" A week later, during another crisis, the boss calls Jackson. "I need your advice." 6 months later, Jackson gets promoted. Not because he's smarter, because he learned to speak up at the right time in the right way. Respect wasn't earned, it was built. And that construction began in a meeting. Jackson's transformation didn't happen overnight, and that's crucial to understand. Between that first successful meeting and his promotion 6 months later, there were dozens of moments where he almost reverted to his old patterns. Moments where staying silent felt safer than speaking up. Moments where the old voice whispered, "Don't bother. Nobody cares what you think anyway." The difference was that now he had a framework. He had experienced what it felt like when people actually listened, and that memory became his anchor. But here's what Jackson learned that most people never discover. Respect isn't built in grand gestures. It's not the big presentation that changes everything. It's not the brilliant idea that saves the company. Those moments help, certainly. But respect is built in the small, consistent choices you make when nobody's really paying attention. It's built in the Tuesday afternoon meeting that doesn't matter much, in the casual hallway conversation with a colleague, in the way you respond to a critical email at 4 in the afternoon when you're tired and frustrated. Jackson started noticing patterns he'd never seen before. His colleague Sarah always interrupted people, but she never interrupted the senior developer Marcus. Why? Because Marcus had a particular way of holding space. When he started speaking, he wouldn't speed up if someone tried to interject. He would just pause, look at them calmly, and then continue exactly where he left off. No aggression, no defensiveness, just a quiet assertion that what he was saying mattered enough to finish. Jackson tried this once. Someone started talking over him, and instead of trailing off like he normally would, he simply paused, maintained eye contact, and then continued his sentence. The interrupter stopped, and Jackson felt something shift. He also noticed that the people who commanded respect never explained themselves excessively. When the marketing director suggested a feature that would take 3 months to build, Marcus didn't launch into a lengthy technical explanation of why it was complicated. He simply said, "That would require rebuilding the core infrastructure. We could do it, but it means delaying everything else by 2 months. Your call." Clear, direct. No apologizing for technical limitations. No over-explaining. Just the reality, stated plainly, leaving the decision where it belonged. Jackson experimented with this in smaller situations first. When his boss asked why something was taking longer than expected, instead of his usual anxious stream of justifications, he tried, "The API documentation was outdated. I had to reverse engineer it. It's done now." 5 seconds instead of 5 minutes. His boss just nodded and moved on. No interrogation, no disappointment. Because Jackson hadn't sounded defensive, his boss didn't feel the need to attack. These small victories accumulated. Each one reinforced the others. Each time Jackson spoke with calm clarity and people listened, it became slightly easier the next time. Each time he stood behind his words without aggression or apology, his internal voice questioning his worth grew a little quieter. This is the part of transformation nobody talks about. It's not linear. Some days Jackson felt like the calm, respected professional he was becoming. Other days he felt like an imposter playing a role. But he kept practicing, because he'd learned something crucial from Musashi's example. Consistency matters more than perfection. The promotion wasn't the end of Jackson's journey. It was just confirmation that the path he'd chosen actually worked. That ancient principles from a samurai's duel could translate into modern respect in a San Francisco tech office. That silence and timing and presence weren't mystical concepts, but practical tools. And most importantly, that he didn't need to become someone else. He just needed to become the clearest, calmest version of himself. Chapter 7, The Formula for Respect. Now let's go back. What did Musashi do in that arena? He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He didn't try to prove himself. He didn't tell his opponent, I am strong. He was simply there, ready, controlled. And that sent a message to his opponent. I am here, and you will take me seriously. It's the same at work. Respect doesn't expect you to look strong. It expects you to be strong. And strength comes not with noise, but with calmness. Not with shouting, but with silence. Not with haste, but with timing. Heijoshin teaches you to be calm. When everyone else is rushing around in a crisis, you stand still. You breathe, you think, then you act. And this gives people confidence because they think if this person isn't panicking, then they must be in control. Metsuke teaches you to choose the right moment. You don't talk constantly, you speak at the right moment. And when these two come together, you are no longer invisible. You are the calmest but most effective person in the room. When your boss looks at you, what they see is, this person isn't rushing, but they're ready. When your team hears you, what they feel is, if this person doesn't know, they won't say it. If they say it, they know it. Respect is not a gift, it is a structure. And you build that structure every day, in every meeting, with every word. As Musashi said, the power of the sword lies in how you hold it. Your power lies in how you use your voice, not in how loud you speak, but in when, how, and why you speak. And most importantly, in how you stand behind what you say. Chapter 8. Now it's your turn. You have a meeting tomorrow, or a presentation, or a conversation with your boss. Try this. Speak first. Wait. Listen. Read the energy in the room. See what your boss is looking for. Understand what your team is stuck on. And when the right moment comes, speak. Lower your voice. Keep your sentences short. Stand behind what you say. Don't get defensive. Explain, but don't apologize. And then observe. Watch your boss's reaction. Feel the team's silence, because that silence is now your silence. You're in control. Musashi discovered something 400 years ago. That respect isn't earned, it's built. And today, you can start building it too. At the next meeting, remember, you are not the storm. You are the sky. And the sky never rushes. Storms come and go, but the sky is always there. Calm, strong, unshakable. Now it's your turn. Write in the comments. Have you tried this strategy? What changed? Which moment did you choose? How did you react? Because you learned something by watching this video. But the real learning starts tomorrow.